We're snorting cap rates and shooting up cash flow here at Deal Junkies.
Welcome back to Deal Junkies.
Good job.
This week, I'm starting us off so that you guys can get a feel for somebody that's not Gabe. I don't have a good reason.
Per listener request.
Yeah, request.
Yeah.
Per listener request, they wanted to hear Dane host the episode.
Yeah, they said that I had a more bro-y voice. So, which I don't know if that's like our target. Like, I don't know if that's our goal or not.
Interesting
Bro,
feedback we got.
Let's go.
We've been asking for feedback from people, and we learned everyone likes different things. I got back-to-back days. They were like, you guys need to stop talking about economics. I don't care about it. And then the next day, it was, oh, I love the economics talk. Like, could you do that more?
So
and I was
we
like,
figured out we're variety podcasters, all related to
If you can get 4 different types of people to hate you at the same time, that's great.
Mike's goal in life.
Whoa.
I'm trying to make friends over here, and Mike's just trying to get everyone to hate
That's
him.
how you make people be friendly with you, is you get people to hate you.
we all have a different subgroup of people that hate us.
Wait a second.
So there's 4 hosts. We have 4 groups of people.
I have not read this book yet.
Isn't that how we do it in politics?
Is
You
this-
just get people, you offend people, so that way people like you more.
Do people like politicians?
Oh, good point.
Is this in what's the book? How to win
Yeah.
friends? And
Yeah,
influence
Dale
people?
Carnegie.
Yeah.
Yeah, piss people off.
Find a way to make 4 types of people hate you. You'll be set for life.
We're so off track.
Let's go.
Sorry,
This is me
Dane.
hosting.
We hijacked
This
your
is what
intro.
happens.
That was a good
dude.
start.
Yeah.
So I'm here with Mike Nuss, Trevor Howard, and Gabe Johansson. I am your host for the day, Dane McKinney. Today, we want to talk a little bit about how Trevor kind of wrapped up the era of his life where he decided to just lose all his money. So we're gonna go.
He said he
through.
spent it all. He didn't lose it all. He spent
Some of
it.
it-
Yeah,
lost.
which is
Well,
weird.
yeah. How do you define it?
I
You had a big
I
bank
would
account and then it was gone.
yeah, and there's no asset tied to.
Oh, but the
Where-
education he got is priceless.
That's true, actually.
He just doesn't get
Yeah.
a piece of paper that says, "Welcome to your $800,000
Oh,
loss of."
Let's make him
degree."
one. Let's make him a Deal Junkies
yeah.
degree.
A degree in.
I love this.
I like that a lot.
Avery, can
actually.
you get one of the VAs to like create a little document for us?
He has a doctorate in the School of Hard Knocks now.
I love it.
Avery, step 1, get a VA. Then have the VA make Trevor a degree.
Yeah, we can like.
Can you get one of the VAs? It's such an. It's such
You're
a
now
boomer.
Deal Junkie
It's
certified.
such a boomer. Just have one of the VAs do it. Anyway,
Middle level management delegation.
no, it's perfect. Yeah,
Okay.
that was actually a really good point. Sorry. Trevor, where do you want to start
All right.
on your journey to losing and getting a degree?
So we've talked about this a little bit, touched on it in past episodes, but this episode we want to tell you, like, okay, where was all these mistakes that I made? What were these bad deals we were doing? Lessons learned, so you guys can listen, then go do the same still and disregard all my advice like I did with Gabe, and then you can share your story after.
Yeah.
But I like to say that I lost $800,000 doing this, mostly because Gabe says he lost $700,000 of his $2.1 million, and I wanted to increase what I did by a
Oh,
little
I
bit.
lost more than that.
Yeah, so
I got you beat still.
I was trying to top him, but I didn't lose all 800. I blew through about 800. I don't know the exact dollar amount, but how I came up with that number, and this was over the past year. It was like 2 years ago now.
Like 2
is when I
years.
started this.
Yeah.
I had like $400,000 cash, right? And then I went to negative $200,000.
Wait, when you had 400,000, you were rich though. Like you were retired at that point, right?
Yeah. I reached financial independence, so
So
I
you were just-
covered all my living.
You're just playing
expenses off
basketball
cash
every
flow.
day.
Yep.
Were you still eating Chipotle, or did you?
I love Chipotle. I will always eat
Oh my
Chipotle.
Did you
for
did you
life.
go from like chicken to steak, or what? Like what's the
I did
double meat.
upgrade. I did upgrade.
upgrade to double meat?
to carne asada or pork from
And the add the
Chicken?
guac.
from
So
chicken.
he got
No,
lifestyle.
I don't.
treat.
I don't add guac.
You don't
so
add guac?
It's $2, dude. Too much.
He didn't start buying filet mignon. He just upgraded to double meat at Chipotle.
So no. Anyway, so to give the listeners a recap, so I reached financial independence, whatever, covered all my living expenses through cash flow. Then I met this guy Gabe. He doesn't like cash flow. He likes equity growth. And I was like, he's way richer than me. That's cool. Let me do that. So I started doing that. That was great. Started buying deals. But anyway, so I had 400 grand cash. Was
Is
retired.
this when you really started thinking rich instead of like a poor man's wealthy? You started thinking rich?
Well,
like
so
Napoleon Hill rich?
my original goal was to just cover my basic living expenses so I had freedom to do whatever I wanted.
Rich.
Yeah. So it was like the first base level of some freedom.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was at that point. And then I realized I wanted a lot of money. And to do that, like, you're not going to get there with cash flow.
You got to build wealth.
You can trade wealth for cash flow later on.
It's what everybody looks for at first, those cash.
It's how you get. It's what got me excited. It's the only way I knew to make money in real estate, and that's how I got started, which was great. And cash flow is still really cool, but that's not how you to cash flow 100 grand a year versus go make 100 grand on a deal is way different.
You know, I love the like so. Invest in real estate, become a billionaire or millionaire. Build businesses, you become a billionaire. If you're just buying for cash flow, you're just an investor, and you can become a millionaire. But if you really want to become wealthy, the operations of forced appreciation and building equity, that's the business side of it.
Neither is right or nor wrong. It just depends on what your goal is and why you're doing it.
And when you're coming in with money, being an investor looking for yield is different than when you're coming in with nothing and you're trying to build an empire.
Correct.
Yeah. So I was, at that point, financially independent, started investing, doing more stuff. I had 400 grand. Went to negative $200,000 in lines of credit and whatnot. But in the meantime, I also sold off some like $100,000 worth of stocks. Plus, I was making money during that time that went away. So I was like, yeah, it was probably like 800 grand I went through.
That's a lot of Chipotle.
Oh my, that's a lifetime.
It's more multiple lifetime supply of Chipotle.
And is this when you started your lifestyle creep at the same time?
Yes.
That's what I was going to get at.
So there were 3 things that happened at the same time. Any one of these or 2 of them probably would have been fine, but all 3 happening at the same time was terrible. So number 1, lifestyle creep. I read a book about happiness, and I was living off like 10 to 15 grand a year at this time. And my book about happiness said, stop worrying about your dollars so much. Once you start making money, like, you don't need to track it so intimately. I was like, okay, for a whole year, I'm not going to track any dollars and just see what I spent. So I spent a lot of money.
What'd you spend it on? Because you still don't.
It still wasn't that much.
You still drive a Prius.
Yeah, still drew.
You're not wearing a Rolex.
Was it under 50? Like you went from a $12,000-$15,000.
No, I probably spent like 80, I think, or something.
I think it was like 100,000.
So you still
when we looked through it, it was like
more than
travel. You spent it on travel.
I spent on travel. I went to masterminds, so a lot of it was worth it. It's not bad spending. Like I spent like probably like 30 of that on education.
Yeah.
Which is totally worth it still. Like, that's not bad. Like, I was just curious, if I buy every single thing I want for this whole year, how much money is that? That's what I was trying to figure out. The dumb part of that is I could have done that for 2 months and then multiplied it by 6, and then I would have known.
I actually could have done it by 1 month and multiplied by 12.
Probably, I needed a bigger data set than
could have done it by 1 week and multiplied 52.
You could have done it one day. So do you think 2 months is a big enough data set to know?
For sure. Yeah, I think
2 months is
2 months is plenty long enough. Yeah, because I went from tracking every single penny before that to not tracking anything. And this was also when I was a newer investor-ish, so I was tracking all my portfolio, and I stopped tracking the dollars in our portfolio at the same time because I was still learning that, like, how you track and what you track at that time. So I just kind of threw it to the side for a year.
And in fairness, too, that wasn't your responsibility in the portfolio, but I think that it
kind of was. It's always your responsibility.
That's what I was going to say, but it wasn't your specific responsibility. And so that's why when you have somebody when it's everybody's responsibility, it's nobody's responsibility.
Whose responsibility was it?
I think it was yours. You should have let me know.
I mean, there was somebody that was in charge of like managing the work and knew how to manage the work.
It just wasn't something I was thinking about at that point. I was like, yeah, these properties just kind of pay for themselves. But that was when I got into heavy value add. So I was a newer investor getting into heavy value add, not thinking about the bleeds because I'd only been buying for cash flow.
You underestimated how much it costs to
value add a property.
Stabilize a value add project.
So that's the second part of it. I bought a ton of real estate at one time combined with increasing
all stuff that needed a ton of work.
All heavy value add. So all that part was great. Would do it again, but I underestimated how much dollars, and then we were off on repair budgets a little bit as I was learning how to do it. So that cost me a lot.
How much wealth did you build during that time?
Oh, well, I was a millionaire before that, and then I went negative wealth because we bought really heavy value add. But then it will be worth a lot later on, or it's still grown.
But I mean,
we're millions of dollars. Yes, we will.
Millions of dollars.
Yes.
So you shifted your focus from cash to wealth.
Yeah.
and then you ran out of cash,
In the
and you built a lot of wealth.
Yeah, totally worth it. Totally worth it.
So
But
then you had to go back to single meat. You couldn't just have double meat on Chipotle anymore, or what?
no, I just put double meat on the credit card.
How do you, I mean, that's how you go $200K in credit debt.
Yeah.
So you started spending more money because you weren't tracking it. You feel, and then you bought a bunch of real estate and weren't really tracking that either.
Wasn't because I was doing that experiment where I let it bleed in. So had I been tracking my real estate, come on, Mike.
You said it wasn't going to do that.
It was a
We're good, we're
stopwatch.
Time's up. Time's up.
Oh, I did a timer and a stopwatch.
Boomer.
All right. So had I been tracking the real estate, I would have been able to project the bleeds, how much money I need and whatnot, rather than loosely being like, oh, let me write this $50,000 check when I have $400,000. I'm like, now I have $350. Let me write this $100,000 check. Oh, now I have $250.
You
So-
should have only applied that book to your personal life and not your.
I should
real
have
estate
thrown that
career.
book away, dude. Like, that book sucks. I shouldn't have done any of that. I should have just tracked my dollars.
Yeah.
You can track your dollars and be happy still. Like,
I think
Yeah.
you would have been happier
Yeah.
had you tracked your dollars.
You know how Grant Cardone always says "stay broke."
Yeah.
Like, so it's that whole mentality that it's okay. Like, kind of what you did was stay broke by spending all that money. I think when he says that, he goes and puts it into deals and has to
Yeah.
recapitalize and go do more deals. But the idea is when you got $400,000 in your bank account, you're nowhere near close to financial freedom or being rich like you thought you were, and it totally screwed you because it changed your mindset. It made you relax, and it put you in a position where you got maybe a little too complacent.
Oh,
in
yeah.
your personal life, I think that's probably not a bad idea. You got $400,000 in the bank. I want to eat somewhere other than Chipotle. Go for it, right? But I'm going to go buy a bunch of properties, and I'm not going to pay attention because I have $400,000. It's probably like you're letting that personal ideology bleed into your business, which should not have happened.
Yeah.
Yes, correct. So that was the next mistake.
And if you have discipline in your business, you don't have to be as disciplined in your personal life.
Yep. So lesson learned there. And then the third thing I did was I didn't calculate for how deals and partnerships can go wrong. So I went into one of the smallest deals I've ever done, but lost the most amount of money I've ever lost at the same time out of that one deal. So that deal ended up costing me more than I even had to put into our like $7 million properties on one $300,000 deal.
Mm. Was it a development play? Redevelopment?
It was a redevelopment of taking a motel and converting it to like Airbnbs. And the deal itself was actually great.
Yeah.
So it showed me if you have like the right partners, even if things go wrong on a good deal, you can still be perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
But the partnership was the key to the deal.
And so why were the partners wrong? The wrong partners?
The partners were the wrong partners because they had never invested before. They were overconfident in what they were doing and they didn't actually know. And then when things go wrong, they didn't want to pick up the phone or deal with it. They just wanted to run away.
Okay, so there's some character issues there, but go back to their skill sets. So were they?
Never had a successful project one time in their life and had been doing a bunch of projects.
Why did you partner with them? Did they bring you the deal?
I think I underwrote the deal. I think we all found together. I don't know. I don't remember exactly.
So
I should have not, but it was. I had overconfidence in them.
You should
because
have not
they were
what?
partnered.
Yeah.
Would you have done that deal by yourself?
No.
No.
So you partnered with them because they brought something to the table
brought-
you didn't have.
Well, they didn't have it either, but I had. I thought they did.
Okay.
They were flipping some houses, and they were like, "Yeah, we know how to renovate all this stuff. I have this GC guy; he does all this stuff." And
So you're bringing on a contractor, you're bringing on a visionary, you're bringing on somebody
Yep.
who's been in the space of repositioning assets, and you don't come from that space.
correct.
So you feel good about going into this because you're like, hey, I can underwrite the deal based on if everything you tell me is
Yep.
right, this is a good
So
deal.
here's our budget. Here's how long it will take. I'm like,
Mhm.
perfect. Here's what we'll rent for at the end. Here's what it will be worth. Here's all the numbers. Here's what we got to buy it at.
Yeah.
And then sick. Like,
So
we'll-
your experience up to that point is the house hacking SROs.
And then I started doing other value adds at the same time. So I was doing a bunch of other deals at the same time.
Yeah. So up to this point, though, it was mostly the house hacking SROs, and then you went all in on buying some value add apartments with Gabe in a partnership.
I think
and then,
I think this deal might have happened before we were buying deals, wasn't it? Or it's
I think
simultaneous?
we
It was
owned a
pretty
few
close at the
together
same time.
already.
it was all kind of happening at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So you're kind of changing. You're going out of your incremental change. Now you're making bigger changes.
I'm trying to do a
You're
lot of
trying to
deals.
expand your capacity.
Mhm.
And so you saw an opportunity with this partnership to expand your capacity.
Yep.
And you trusted these individuals to be competent in helping you expand your capacity, and then you're a financial component, a debt signer component.
Yep. And I only own 25% of the deal. So my thought process was, okay, the downside of this deal is we're all in it at $300,000. These guys are telling me they have money and they're making money. And my downside is 25% of $300,000. I have enough cash just to go into this thing and like pay off my portion. The part that went wrong was
you were the only one with cash.
I was the only one who ended up putting dollars into the deal for the most part, while only owning 25% with the, hey, I'll pay you back later, don't worry.
You're loaning money to your partners.
Yes.
I've got a grain of wisdom that came from this that we probably talked about like 6 months ago, but it has to do with exit plans and then track record, and it's super simple, but it's, if you're going into a deal like type that you haven't done before, or with somebody who, you're not sure about, whatever, you're either getting long-term debt that makes it so you can hold that property for 10 years, or you're doing it with somebody who has the track record of having done it a ton of times before. It seems super simple, right? It seems super simple. But the reason you want the long-term debt is because then you're not banking on yourself to perform. You're not banking on anybody else to perform. You're banking on the track record of the United States economy.
Of the marketplace.
And so then you're just saying, you're either banking on a person's track record because they've done 50 flips. I do a flip with Mark tomorrow. I've never done a flip, but I know that Mark's done 50 flips and was successful on all of them. Made money on all of them.
I partnered with a guy who told me he was doing 15 flips a year, and I started flipping, and then I found out he had never flipped a house before.
Well, so there's a difference in having
I had
knowing
that,
that they've done the flips.
Huh?
I learned the archetype of my partner is very similar to your partner.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like, I had the confidence because they portrayed the confidence that they knew, and this is how it goes. Yeah. And then when that is the key, is the overconfidence.
Wait a second. Is one of these partners a contractor?
Yeah,
allegedly.
Was he confident by chance?
Oh, he was super confident.
I love how we're just getting into the con man conversation quickly.
So don't confuse a real contractor with a con man, is what.
No, I think it's super key. I also think that when you're tying and this is something that's like super taboo, I guess, but when you're tying your name to a piece of real estate that's going to have $500,000 worth of debt on it, and you're going to sign on that debt, and so is another person, I think it's really important to know how much that person is worth. I know exactly what Trevor, Gabe, and I know what all my partners are worth because, well, for a number of reasons. And they know what I'm worth.
Because you have our financial statements.
Yeah, because I have your financial statement.
Chasing loans.
And that's that was my whole pitch point to people when we were doing deals initially. When I'm calling people, hey, my partner is worth this. People don't even ask to see it from Gabe because it's like, okay, you're either lying about that or you're not. But if the bank's giving you a loan and I'm the seller, who am I to say no, right? But when you're going into like a flip deal and it's like, well, have you done a flip before or 2 flips before? And you don't ever see that person's financial statement and you're the one who's worth all of the money that you saved up from engineering. It's like you're just the one, your name is the one on the line. That's why when we're doing deals with Gabe, I pitch Gabe on deals. I'm the one who says, here's the deal we found. Here's where we negotiated it to. Gabe beats holes into it all day long. You see 15 deals, 20 deals that we look at before we close on one because Gabe is the one who knows at the end of the day. The rest of us will figure it out, but he's the KP. You were the KP in that scenario, but you didn't have a group around you that was actually going to execute on the deal.
You just hit on something really important. So I didn't see this in the beginning either. When I made my mistakes is I signed on a bunch of debt. And like Trevor, you're thinking, well, I have partners. And if we lose my portion of that, I can figure it out. What you don't think about is if you happen to partner with people that don't have money and then they're only going to come after you, you're responsible for that. So if you did sign on to $500,000 worth of debt, the way I look at that today and the way I looked at it before was like, it's all going to work out. If it doesn't work out, we'll figure out how to get out of it somehow. Now I look at it like I'm writing a $500,000 check because if this deal goes south, they're going to come after me to write that $500,000 check because I know I'm I'm the key person on that loan, and they're going to come after me first.
It's me.
And so I used to be like, yeah, I'll sign on anybody's loan and we'll do a deal. And now I've been burned enough times to where it's like, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, I would rather give you $500,000 of my own money and just risk it and lose it if the deal goes south than to sign on debt and have to deal with that.
Yeah, because it's a leverage risk.
Yeah, now it's my money and not somebody else's. Taking bank money is just like taking investor money.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also think it's important to note that you should have partners who are way more afraid of losing other people's money than they are their own. Because that's exactly what you just said.
That's a character issue.
That's exactly
That's a character.
Well, and
Yeah,
that's
it
like
is.
an underlining thing you're going to find about con men is, one, they're really good at giving people confidence, but they're also not bringing themselves to the table. They're bringing someone else to the table that they're also building confidence on in the other side, a contractor that's not expanded into this world. And then what they do is they set it up so there's nothing to lose. Like
for them.
For them, right? So the loss and the risk is on everyone else. They're in the deal. They can participate in the benefit if it's there. But if anything goes south, they can just go to the next con. And they win and then play. So they understand how to win and play better than anyone else, because they either make sure they get value, and then maybe they're tied to debt, or maybe there's some downside, but at that point it doesn't matter because they don't care about their promises and their contracts. Or they set it up that I'm only going to win, and it may not be now, but if it starts to a loss, now I can go somewhere else. And that's the first thing that they do, is they go on to the next opportunity, because they're always looking for that next hit of value. And just like we're deal junkies on getting deals in escrow and closing them, they're junkies on screwing people over.
Dude,
Con
listen to how much
junkies.
confidence I had. So first off, this was my fault. Gabe told me not to do this, and I still did this.
Good
And
partner.
there were so many reasons I shouldn't have done this had I actually thought about it rather than just looking at the upside. I did not think about the downside at all. But one of these partners, he's like, "Hey man, can you buy me this car? I'll pay you back next month." And I was like, "Yeah, no problem. You'll pay me back next month. What's whatever, 15 grand, whatever, between friends."
Well, that was last month, so. Or wait, that was 2.5 years ago. My bad.
Yeah.
My time
So
flies.
I was like, "Yeah, no problem." As I'm putting all this money into the deal at the same time, I should have known. Like, there's so many reasons why.
Yeah, you now see the red flag.
Yeah, it's so I'm like, oh, I was really dumb.
Yeah.
Now I'm
But that's what
slightly
a
less
con
dumb.
man does, is
Yeah.
they just distract you. It's distract and deflect. They get
Uh-huh.
you start talking about the downside, nope, get you right back on the positive side.
Yep. So I was just like, yeah, I'll buy that car.
Why did these partners need you? Did you ever ask yourself that? Like, in doing this deal, what role did you play in the partnership?
What the project was going to be worth on the end / writing checks
So they
/
needed
signing on debt.
So they needed a borrower, they needed somebody who could write some checks, and they needed somebody who could underwrite, sell it at the end, or what? Like,
Yeah, that was going to be the plan.
And so-
then signing on debt.
and so
yeah.
you were gonna sign up for this deal, and they were gonna go do their magic, and at the end,
Oh, and I also did work on it, like physical labor.
oh,
But-
you went and worked on it.
Yeah, because it wasn't going.
That wasn't the
going.
plan, that was the bailout.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
But so the plan was they all had a role, right? So Conman had the deal. He convinced the contractor he's capable. He convinced you that you're the other piece of the puzzle, and that if you sign on the dotted line, you don't have to do anything. The project will be done in 6 months. You list it, sell it, rent it, whatever you do, and we're all happy.
The deal would have worked. Like, it was a good deal.
Yeah.
But it was the piece that our players did not have the experience needed to do that type of
Yeah.
deal, nor the collaboration to figure it out as things were
Communication.
going wrong.
Yeah.
You guys weren't good partners.
Bad partners.
And that's where, so what happened is the reality of making that piece of paper pro forma actually come to life, the actual execution steps didn't get accomplished. And as they weren't getting accomplished, you didn't communicate it early on in the process.
But it was super cool. So learning on that deal, I saw how a good deal could be saved. So if any other one, like anyone else was doing that deal, I could have had anyone else doing it. It still would have worked out, I realized, because there was so much meat on the bone.
How much
Like,
money could you have made?
So we probably, had it gone to plan, we were going to have like 250 in equity in the thing.
I would have doubled your money.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
own it with like no money in.
250
lots of cash
equity
flowing.
split by how many partners?
4, so not really worth it.
So
also.
60 grand.
Well, at that time, totally worth
So-
it.
If it's a learning lesson, then
Yeah.
sure.
Well, I want to make a point here about risk and reward.
Yeah.
So your upside potential
Yeah.
was $60,000.
Plus the long-term growth, cash flow, owning the property. But yes, equity-wise, yes.
And how much did you lose on this deal?
So this specific deal, if you count the truck too, like that's like 150 plus that partnership lost me more money from doing other things with them.
But just this deal, if
just
you tried
to
to
like
try to
150-ish thousand.
okay, so your downside, you didn't know it going in, but your downside risk was 150K,
Mm-hmm.
and your upside gain was 60K. If
Yeah.
I brought you that deal again today, would you do it?
I've never even looked at
All
it.
right, will you do the deal with me? Because then I'll do it.
No.
No.
I've never,
Well, and the
I've never
other-
even looked. I mean, that's the exact way that you need to measure it.
But I couldn't
Yeah.
measure the downside at the time. I did not know it was an option for someone to just take your money.
100%. And that's the takeaway here, and that's what I see in your mistake is you didn't know what you didn't know,
Yep.
which was how to measure downside risk.
Mhm.
You didn't know how to deal with a bad partnership that goes sideways. You didn't know how to understand what would happen if nobody else in the partnership had money, what kind of risk you were really putting yourself into. You stepped into a very risky deal, which is the reason I told you not to do it. And there wasn't enough meat on the bone to make it worth doing. I saw more risk than reward, and I said don't
You saw
do
it in the partnership. Yeah, you didn't even have to.
But
look
I
at
had
the
already
deal.
been through it.
Yeah,
It's
you
not
didn't
that
even
I'm
have to look
smarter
at the
than
deal.
you. I'd just
Yeah.
done it before. I'd made
Yeah.
the same mistake before.
Yeah.
Also, another tip on that I'm not super privy to, but now I know needs to be in every partnership we have. I haven't had to deal with it, but the last partnership that we got into on the project up in Astoria that we're working on, we have a guy who's worth quite a bit of money that's done billions in transactions for his prior job for real estate transactions. And we were really good on the deal. He loved the deal. He loved the underwriting. Didn't have a ton of questions for any of that. Trusted our budget. Trusted everything. And then when it got to the operating agreement, he could not have been more diligent about it. I mean, it was absurd. And the whole time, every time he gives us a comment back on the operating agreement, it was like, hey, we got to put this in here. Here's why. 99% chance, doesn't matter. Super excited to work with you guys. Like, he was very clear the whole time. It was like, I don't think this is ever going to be important, but if it is, I need it in there.
When it does become important,
Yeah. Because,
So,
by the way,
and a great
I'm money guy.
Yeah.
And so, to that point, though, if your operating agreement if that's all that you had done right on that transaction was
Didn't
the
matter.
OA,
Didn't matter.
then but if you had a buy-sell clause in there, if
Yeah,
you had the
so-
right to buy them out, then you could have bought out all of their equity at any point during, but you didn't have that.
So when someone pitches you as, hey, man, you're on the debt, I have nothing to lose, and you're going to lose all this money, but I have this solution for you. Let me take you off the deal, and you leave all your money in the deal.
ooh, take you off the deal, but leave you on the debt.
No, take you off the debt, but the deal. But I'm going to sign this note for you after you do that.
Is that how
I'll
you
pay back.
solve
Yeah,
this
let's sign it.
problem?
So how I
beforehand.
solved this problem. So at the same time, let me add in. So those were the 3 mistakes I made, right? It's not tracking my personal finances, doing lots of deals. And I was ego investing at that point with the value add deals a little bit. I was just like, let me just buy 100 units because it sounds really cool.
Oh,
I
you're
would-
trying to hit a door count.
Yeah, which is dumb. Like, I don't care how many doors. You could have 10 doors. They're way better
The way
than
you
100
measured
doors.
you weren't
Yeah, it was still worth it. It was
smart
really
in how
fun.
you measured your.
Yeah, I didn't need to
success
do
and
it that way. I'm
your-
glad I did, but whatever. And then I did this partnership at the same time. But at the same time we were doing this, I started making less money because me and Dane kicked off what we were doing at the same time. So my income decreased at the same time. So now I have all this cash going out, not enough coming in to cover it. And then I go through all the reserve funds I have. So I got to the point where I had negative $200.
How long did that
negative
take to
200,000.
go from 400 to negative 200?
Oh, dude. Like,
You can do it fast.
you can do it like probably like 8 months or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, it
So you're
was not
bleeding.
long,
You're
under a year.
bleeding $50K a month or something.
Something like that, yeah.
And part of that was from separate projects.
Yeah, separate.
I mean,
all of the stuff combined, yes.
It's something to be
Oh, it's
said.
more. It's more. You said 8 months.
It's
Oh,
not-
that's a
something
lot
like
more
that.
than
I don't know. Because it could be
You're,
a chunk,
you're bleeding
right?
like 75 grand a month.
Something. It's not. It wasn't consistent.
That's a lot when you're just getting started.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I didn't care about money, so I was like, yeah, I'll write that check.
Well, that's ego also. When you have when you sit on more money than you've ever had before, you get the feeling that money's easy to come by, and it's a mistake
Mm-hmm.
because once that money's gone, then you remember how hard it is to put it back in your bank account.
Yes.
The other thing is when you're writing that many checks, it's really hard to really know that money is going to the projects are still getting the momentum, right? So just because writing the check, if you aren't communicating and you're not there, you don't know if the actual check is matching the project momentum.
Oh, dude. So that's why I realized diving into the project. Had I been more watching that project quicker, I would have known right away. Like, oh, they're blowing all these dollars. Like, these dollars are actually like being spent on personal items. Some of them too.
Yep.
And then like this is we're not at budget. What you're telling me is the story is not even close. When I look at the numbers and look at everything, they'd be like, oh, we're almost done. Here's how much more we need. We're almost done. Here's how much more we need. and it kept compounding.
Yeah,
But,
I'm in the middle of one of those right now where we had a GC. They're on 3 projects, and they spent $75,000 on one project to finish the other. And then we had to fire him, and now we're spending $75 more grand on what? Yeah, it's bullshit.
I did it twice. I mean, in both my flipping story and this Astoria waterfront deal that we're about ready to wrap up after 4.5 years. I put myself into a position where I was signed on to about $7 million in debt and found out I was with partners that could not perform. And did not.
I got to do a bigger deal
and did not have the mechanisms in place to take control of the partnership.
Yeah.
It took me in Astoria. It took me 15 months working through attorneys, and we all stayed fairly friendly through it. But it took us 15 months to draft an agreement to where we could take control of that project.
How stressed were you during that time?
More stressed than I ever want to be again. I was not as stressed as when I was flipping houses, but I think it's because I was sort of having a little bit of PTSD. Couldn't figure out how I did it to myself again. And Paul Curley talks about that a lot. Like when when things start going down the wrong road, we're deal junkies. Somebody brings us a deal. We want to do a deal. We go, in this case, we went and signed on, a $7 million loan for 0.01% ownership and no mechanism to take over the partnership.
Just to have the option to buy.
Well, we came up with an agreement to where they'd carry a note at the end and we'd get to own it for no money and have all this equity and all. I mean, it was an amazing, talk about
you
your
didn't
deal.
measure the downside.
This is where greed clouds your judgment. Just like you talked about, you kept saying this deal could have worked. It would have been great. We would have made a bunch of money. Sometimes the spreadsheet will lie to you. And maybe it's not lying to you. Maybe it's just it's giving you dollar signs in your eyes to where, and this is why you're blind to the downside risk. It's really hard to see what can go wrong when you're dreaming about how much money you're going to make on that deal, right? Greed just clouds your judgment. And so, that's what drives us all to do a deal is we want a deal that's going to make a lot of money. But and sometimes things just are too good to be true. Sometimes you just look at it and go I can't even believe we're doing this deal. That's probably a red flag right there. They're like, this is it. Some of those deals, the unicorn deals will pop, but they're 1 in 1,000 or 1 in 100. So I don't know. I would say that it's important to understand your motives. And when you're looking at a deal, I can remember when I was flipping houses, I looked at my partner and I said, hey man, I really want to know what is the downside risk? And I said this in another episode and he looked at me and he goes, you know what? I've thought about it. I don't think there really is any. And that is kind of when I knew I was in trouble. Yeah. That was the light bulb that came on where I was like, oh no. And that's why I say bring on partners that accentuate your personality and your skill set, because I'm a gas pedal. I just want to go do deals. But if I partner with another guy like me, we're just going to go, I don't know, somehow Paul and I have been successful together. We're very similar, but I like to have somebody else in the partnership that's more of a brake pedal that says, I don't know about this deal. I'm worried about this deal. I'm worried about signing on this debt. I want somebody that is a little more conservative that sees things from another side, because I want to know what the downside risk is. I want to know what is the worst thing that can happen. There's always going to be risk. You just have to decide in every deal you do if the reward outweighs the risk.
Mm-hmm. And for me, what I try to really understand to keep me focused on that is understand a performa is just a piece of paper. It's static. You're never, ever going to match your performa. I've never done one real estate deal where everything matched the performa. And so now when you're looking at your performa, you then have to add a layer of thought process of how do I execute? What can go wrong on this performa? Where am I overestimating? Where am I conservative? And then now you try and bring that performa to life before you actually purchase the property. It's almost like a role-playing mental exercise of, okay, well then how do we go from what we're buying to executing this? And you have to have the execution piece.
I like what Trevor talked about, how he shifted his mindset from cash to wealth. And to me, commercial real estate is the currency of the wealthy. So rich people don't chase dollars. They chase buildings. But what happens is in down times, in down markets, or when a project takes a turn, you have to be able to hold on. And it takes cash to hold on. So cash is the tool you use to sometimes get the buildings or hang on to the buildings. But if you can't ride that wave through the storm and you come out the other end, it doesn't matter, because now that one thing, if you could have hold on, would have been your whole livelihood. It'll just wipe out everything else in your whole portfolio. Now you're selling stuff you don't want to sell at prices that are lower than you wanted to sell them at, and you're out busting your ass to make money to cover everything, and it just ruins your life.
Yeah, so that's the other thing I learned, is because we were in an illiquid market at that time, so I had a bunch of equity sitting in these properties I own.
You can't get it out.
That I can't get out. So
if you can't sell or refi, the money's stuck. It's a piggy bank you can't open.
Yeah. So I had the negative $200,000, and then I had to figure out, okay, what do I do? So I literally had to balance transfer like dollars to like move them around.
Yeah.
To like reduce payments. I ran it that close to where I literally had tapped every single possible dollar and ran it to the end, basically. And then I had to do what you guys talk about. You're either like you shrink out of the problem and just quit on it, or you have to grow
You
out
can't.
of it.
You have to grow out of the problem.
Yeah.
Did you grow out of the problem?
Yeah, I fixed it now. So now it's
How'd
cool.
you fix it?
So make more money was one. Stop the bleeds on what I could, so make stuff operate more efficiently to, reduce the negative cash flow. And as we were going, we'd have hits too. So it'd be like, oh, okay, I'm almost there.
What's a hit?
So like we had a $70,000. We each had to write a $70,000 check, maybe it was, or something. Or we just refied a property and we were getting like $100,000, $70,000, whatever it was. Then we had a roof fail on this value add property we had. So I'm like, okay, I'm getting closer. And then I'm like, oh, there goes all those funds that I was counting on.
Yeah. Oh, yay, we're finally have $100,000 coming in. Oh, we need a $100,000 roof.
Yeah, I'm convinced those are like the little hope things to get you through the tunnel. Like, oh, here comes that $35,000. I need it so bad. And you have hope for a couple days to keep you going, and then it's gone. But by the time it's gone, some other event happened. So it's like that's the little.
So it was literally the same day I got that check, we got an email. So I was like, oh, dude, it's a little bit of relief right here. We got $100,000. I can reduce my negative a bit here, pay off this 30% interest I'm paying. And then it's like, oh, nope, got to place it here right now.
So you had a problem. You didn't run from it. You didn't hide. You answered the phone. You sat down and did you sit down and do a spreadsheet? Did you write it out on a piece of paper? Sometimes for me, when there's a lot of problems in my head, I got to sit down and write it out so I can see it's not as many problems as I thought I had.
I could have solved it way faster, but I was it's harder to look at it from first person than third person. So how I ended up solving it ultimately was a few different ways. But I got on the phone with my buddy Jesse, and he was like, why don't you just do X, Y, and Z? And it seems like you'd solve the problem. Because I didn't want to sell anything was the thing. Like I wanted to hold everything. And he's like, dude, if you just sell this one property, like you're fine now.
You are the young Paul Curley, by the way.
I told you to sell those houses like a year prior.
Dane didn't say it loud enough or clear enough.
Yeah, but then he wouldn't have had the money to. He would have went and blown all that money on something stupid.
So that was part of it. Is just like, oh, I have $150,000 sitting right here, and this thing doesn't mean that much to me. Just sell it.
I would argue the $150K you lost on your bad deal with bad partners was a much better education than the $30,000 you spent going to mastermind events.
Yeah. No, that's
so it was worth it. But you're young. You're in your beginning of your investing. It's a good way for you to learn. It didn't wipe you out. It didn't stop. One of the biggest risks in doing a bad deal is it'll make you never want to do that deal again, or never want to do deals again. Right. Yeah.
And I don't think you can compare those two things. I think they're just two sides of the sword, right? The masterminds, that's just sharpening the movement forward part of the sword, and then the loss, the $150K loss, is sharpening the withholding power, the experience side of it.
But he had so much more pain when the pain is what teaches you.
Yeah.
Yes, it was very painful when you have negative $200,000 and like 150 of that is at 30% interest. So I'm making enough money to float interest-only payments, but not reducing the debts. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that's a spiral you can't.
You're stuck on a treadmill.
Yes. So I did that for a while. I blew a lot of money just on interest.
and it's set at a 10 elevation, and you're running at like 20 miles an hour.
Yeah, dude.
And you're like, I'm never going to be able to get off this
That's a good way to put it.
So I started tracking everything diligently. So it's funny. I see the charts and I'll show clients. I'll be like, they'll want to do something. I'll be like, here's why you shouldn't do it. And I'll pull up my spreadsheet. This is how many negative dollars I went to trying to do what you're saying you're going to do.
So now you can see downside risk.
So now I can see downside risk. And it's funny because I've helped multiple people in that same scenario that I was in. And I'm like, here, do X, Y, and Z, and you solve it. But I couldn't do it for myself.
So do you think you'll ever make that mistake again?
Yeah, it'll just be way bigger next time.
Yep, you're right.
That's funny.
Yeah,
No,
but he'll be smart enough to have long-term debt and have a more manageable type mistake.
It might be a more manageable mistake, and maybe it depends on if you run. I mean, maybe we can help you not make that mistake again. But you listen to me next time. But I've gotten into that mistake more than once myself in a couple of different ways, and it was always around the same thing. It was always like
Partners.
Yeah, but it was always around the thinking that I'm going to be able to make a bunch of money for doing nothing.
Yeah.
And all I have to do is sign my name, and everybody else is going to go do this. And it's just not the way the world works.
That was the whole point of my talk.
I learned so much from your talk, by the way.
No, I don't. But that
No, don't minimize it. It was a really good
it was
presentation.
We're talking
Awesome.
about me. Why are you bringing you up?
Yeah.
Well, because it's
because
applicable.
Dane's our host today.
Yeah, I'm our host today. No,
And-
but that was the whole thing. That was the whole thing. What you just said, you summed it up in 2 sentences.
Well, I already forgot what I said.
Which is that if you have this idea that like you're going to get into real estate and then somehow just make a bunch of money without creating actual value somewhere, it doesn't work.
Well, you can, and that's why there's so many comment in real estate. Because
you can't do it long term. It's not the sustainable way.
No, you just move to Florida after you burn enough bridges.
Yeah, and then you go to jail at some point.
I don't want
but-
to sidetrack us, but
That's
you're
what
right.
I'm
You
saying.
have to work.
Yeah.
The reality is the better you are at putting people together, the less type of work you have to do, and that's where con men succeed.
Yeah.
So if you're the partner that's going to build a team like I am,
Yeah.
I don't have the skills. I don't want to underwrite the deal. I don't want to run the deal. I don't want to pick the colors. I don't want to do any of it. I just want to build the team. We find a deal. I sign my name to it, and we make money. I mean, I think that'd be the dream anybody wants.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is you've got to become a master at understanding the character of people.
Yes.
You've got to, and to me, more importantly than even seeing their balance sheet or how much money they have, is you've got to know that in a hard time, which all partners are going to go through, just like a marriage, you're going to go through something. You need to know the character of the people that you're working with, because if you guys come together closer to solve the problem, to me, solving that problem, if I were in that same mess, the reason I take partners is if I was in that deal and we were in that mess, I would much rather be doing it with you as my partner than doing it by myself.
Yes.
Because I feel like I can come to you and the two of us can put our heads together.
Me and you could have solved that problem easy.
Yeah, we would have solved it in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
We would have figured that out, right? But I don't want to do those deals by myself because I feel like the partnerships, the right partnerships, when you have the right partners, you're just better together. You think better collectively and you make better decisions. But not all partnerships work like that. But, I mean, it takes a while, and you may have to partner with a few people that are the wrong people, and you'll find out a lot. I mean, this is just like you don't want to marry the wrong person and find, that's the worst probably mistake you could ever make is marry the wrong person and wake up one day and go like, oops, I just committed my whole life to be married to this person. A partnership is kind of the same way, except you don't have to partner with them again. The problem is you can get into a partnership, and I can remember my flipping story is I can remember waking up in the middle of the night and just going like, my life, I had kind of turned everything around for myself financially. I was doing well. I was brokering deals. Like things were starting to really light up for me. And I was getting to the point where I was not in survival mode as much. I could see that I was on a trajectory to having success. And what happened for me was I got a little blip of a downtime where I didn't have as many deals in my pipeline or something happened. And I got scared. And the fear led me to go, I need another side hustle. I got to go do something to make money other than this other thing that I'm really good at, that I'm having a little bit of a downtime in right now. And so I thought to myself, well, I should have this house flipping thing. It's sort of like it's real estate. It's sort of like what I'm already doing anyway. So the fear led me to the part where it's like, I'm going to go make decisions that I probably shouldn't make, number one. And then it was greed that led me into some of these deals that I did where, we can make all this money. We're going to make whatever. We're going to make $100,000 a house, or we're going to make $50,000 a house or whatever. I'm going, I'm doing the math, and I'm going to make $300,000 to $500,000 a year flipping houses, and I'm not really going to do anything other than sign a few documents here and there. That was so the greed led me to come up with this new formula, and the new formula led me to greed, and then the greed led me to lose everything I had and go.
Plus what you didn't have.
And I'm laying in bed going like, I screwed it all up. Now I have to fix it, like you said, and I got to go make more money. And so I go out and I broker a ton of business. I could have just done that without having to lose it. But, for me, losing the money and now I had to make it, it gave me the fire I needed underneath me to go to a different level. It changed me as a human being. It changed me as a real estate broker. And quite honestly, it probably put me on the map because I don't think anybody brokers 10 to 15 apartment deals at a time. I did that just to feed the bleed of this stupid company that I had started to flip houses to make $300,000.
That's monstrous.
I'm so glad you did that. We wouldn't be here today if you didn't start that flipping company.
Maybe. There are silver linings in all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting to touch on like how much stress you were facing. Losing what you don't have and then having to service it is an insane feeling. Because I was sitting there like, oh wow, this is kind of crazy. I'm paying. You
30%. didn't seem very stressed out though during that time. Were you stressed
This was
out?
like when I met you.
Yeah, I mean, it was stressful, but I had read all the books, and it's like, and I'd seen you do it, and it's like, oh yeah, everyone fucks up at some point. So I was like, okay, I'll just tell the story later. I either quit right now or I just fix it. And, but yeah, it was stressful. I was like,
were you waking up in the middle of the night?
Sometimes, but I was like, not that much because I thought I could fix it, and me stressing because seeing you guys do it, I was like, there's no point in me stressing.
Yeah.
And like, I'm just gonna do what I can to think about it, and then I kind of buried it and tried to not think about it for too long also, which was part of the problem. Had I listened to Dane, he told me how to solve it, but I don't know if he actually told me.
So long ago.
Had I listened to like people like that, then I would have solved it more immediate and I faced it. But I was letting it grow because I didn't know, and then when I started looking, I was like, oh, this is a big problem.
I got a question for you. So Trevor prior to losing all this money versus Trevor today, how do you look at $400,000 back then versus how you look at $400,000 today?
At that point, that was more money than I needed for the rest of my life. Like, and now it's just like, oh, whatever.
It's like, oh, that'll cover 4 months of bleed.
It's changed.
Yeah.
So you see money completely differently. Like, that means a $10 bill to you back then was like a Chipotle bowl, and now
I tracked every penny to the penny. I knew it down to the penny what I was spending.
So does money look differently to you now? Do you feel differently about it? Does it seem like
it's completely different? I relaxed around money, like spiritual principles of real estate. It comes and it goes, and I wasn't stressing about it as much because now I know I can make more and figure it out.
That was the biggest thing in my mind. Because prior to that, your whole goal was to figure out how to spend less instead of make more.
Yes.
And it's way easier to figure out how to make more money.
It's more scalable to make more.
You can't ever spend $0.
You can spend.
You can't spend zero.
You can spend down to zero.
Yeah. Okay.
but you can't go you can't go past zero. So you are limited there. But you're not limited on how much you make.
Yeah.
But I just had to figure out, what was your question?
Oh, I was wondering how you see like if you were to, I don't know, put it into perspective for us, what $400,000 to you looks like today versus before.
At that point, I'm spending $15,000 a year. I'm looking at $400,000, and I'm like, if I just invest this, I can literally live forever like this and never do one thing ever again because I live for free and I spend $15,000 a year on all these other necessities.
And okay.
Plus, my stuff was growing at the same time. I'm like, I literally never have to do anything. This is enough money doing what I'm doing right now.
This is your fire
for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Another book you shouldn't have read.
It got him there.
Yeah. And then right now, I mean, now it's $400,000. It's like, oh, that's not, like, our goals are way past $400,000. That's not nearly enough to do anything with.
Yeah, you're like, well, that's a deal. Great.
Yeah, you can buy one property.
To do anything.
It doesn't make me happy for a couple weeks.
I mean, it is weird, isn't it? Like, I mean, it sounds cocky. It sounds, if you're listening, trust me, we're not the assholes we sound
It's not
like
cocky.
we are.
It's just putting it in perspective.
It is. That's what I'm saying. It looks different. For me, what happened was I was just like $1 million. I remember laying in bed going like $1 million. Like, if I had $1 million right now, I would trade it for one night to sleep 8 hours. That's how much 8 hours of sleep is worth to me.
Yeah, well, we like to put money on a pedestal. It is everything we need in life. And if you take it off its pedestal and just say it is here for a use and a purpose, and then just apply it to its use and its purpose, now you take that's how you ease around it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what do they say? Money won't solve your problem, or money won't make you happy, but it'll solve 99% of your problems.
Yeah.
And if having 99% less problems makes you happy, now I think we might be addicted to having problems, to be honest with you, as Deal Junkies. That's all we do is solve problems.
Well, you make more money by having bigger problems.
I think
it's not a problem if you can't solve it by money.
Was there a part of you that was sort of excited to be solving this problem?
Dude, Well, kind of. So I was sitting in my living room one day. I remember having this feeling. So I was sitting in my living room, and I'm like, everything's going really well right now. I'm making much money. I got 400 grand. I'm buying more properties. I'm like, something bad is about to happen. And I could feel it. I could feel it because I was like, this is too easy right now.
Yeah.
And then that's when that all happened. I was like, okay, I knew it was coming. I just didn't know what.
Mike,
You manifested it.
What do you mean when we just skipped over that? What do you mean when you say it's not a problem if you can solve it with
it's a
money?
situation.
Yeah, you just pay to have it solved if you have enough.
Yeah,
money.
like here's a problem.
Not a problem.
Like, so I saw Taryn in the coffee shop, and she asked me, "What's the best thing going on in your life right now?" And I kind of thought about it because, well, there's this deal. We got 2 more deals in escrow. Just closed one, and I was like,
Deal Junkies.
"No, my daughter came out of her coma. Like she's no longer like hating me and avoiding me. Like the best thing in life. That's a fucking problem that you can't solve with money."
Yeah.
Right. So now school starts, and all of a sudden she's friendly and she's happy and she wants to come out and hang. So like that's a fucking problem.
Yeah, a wise man once told me that the best kind of problem to have is a money problem.
Yeah, because it's a situation.
Because you can solve it.
Yes, very solvable problem.
Yeah, the emotional, the mental problems, the marital problems, the other problems that you have in life are a lot harder to deal with.
Yeah.
And sometimes I've seen some very wealthy people, think they can just write a check for anything to even solve marital problems and other problems. It's like, oh, I got drunk and I crashed into your car. Here, let me whip out my checkbook. It's like there's not as, I don't know, the world tends to not punish those as hard that have money because you can write a check.
Yes.
I mean, you think about it, you get a speeding ticket. Well,
situation.
when I had no money, I drove the speed limit. And now that I have money, I drive as fast as I want to go. Because if they give me a speeding ticket, I'm just going to pay for it. I don't
As long
care.
as you're under 100 miles an hour.
Well, yeah. Okay.
Reckless endangerment.
Yeah.
Go to jail for that.
Well, if you drive a nice enough car, they don't pull you over anyway.
Jesus.
I don't know if that's true or not. I've never driven a nice car.
Oh, jeez.
You don't want to
not get into this topic.
Actually, if you drive a Prius and you go 100 miles an hour, they won't pull you over because they don't believe a Prius.
Yeah,
can go 100
no, you'll
miles
be
an hour.
good. If you can get a Prius up to 100.
You radar the wrong car, officer.
But going back to problems in the world and the way the world deals with things, like there are a lot of things you can get through with money that you can't get through if you don't have money.
Mm-hmm.
For me, the only thing I stress out about is money. I don't have a lot of personal problems, but even when I've had personal problems, to me, the biggest thing that wakes me up at night is and it's still to this day. Like I don't feel like I have enough money. Like I don't think it ever goes away. There's just maybe it's because I'm a man and I'm supposed to protect and provide and do all the other stuff. Like it never goes away.
I think it goes beyond that. Economics is the foundation of everything we do in life. That's why I love it so much. And the reason being is, who do you know does not schedule their life around making money, earning money, spending expenses? Who do you know can go 3 hours a day without thinking something about money, whether it's going to be spent on this, earned here? So it literally is the foundation of everything in life because we wrap our worlds around it.
So Trevor, when he had 400 grand, he could have just stopped. He could have just. I saw a guy. I was at the coast the other day, sitting at a restaurant. I see this guy walk in. He sits at the bar. He's wearing those goofy sandals that Trevor wears. What are those things? They look
barefoot.
like barefoot sandal things, like made with one little string and a strip of rubber. He's sitting there at the bar, and he's got this really nice looking watch on, and he's sipping a glass of wine. And I'm looking at him. He looks a pretty laid back guy, and I'm like, I wonder what kind of watch he's wearing. So I got a little bit closer to him. I took a peek. And I looked down, and the watch didn't have a second hand or a minute hand or an hour hand. Just right in the middle of the watch, it said "now." And I was like,
Really?
Awesome.
I thought of Mike.
That's
I'm like,
hilarious.
isn't that cool?
That is
like,
really cool.
You look at your watch and you go, and it was it looked like an expensive watch. You
That's
look
just
down, and you go,
creating an environment for
what
himself.
time is it?
Yeah.
It's now.
Yeah.
It's now.
That's his environment he wants to be in.
I think you can create that environment with or without money.
Yeah.
But you want to go sit in a nice restaurant and have a glass of wine, you got to have a few bucks. And he looked like he probably did have money. But you probably don't have to have. He might only have 400 grand. That might be enough for him to hang out and do whatever he wants.
So going back to the 400 grand, the 15K you're spending, the FIRE mindset, and this is why FIRE is a finite book. It's a finite mindset. Once you get to that and you've got your margaritas on the beach, you're no longer evolving as a human being. So you may be free, but you're no longer going to be happy because that freedom creates lack of growth.
You lost purpose.
I would like to talk about that and separate the two things.
Mhm.
Because we went to a mastermind. I got to go to a mastermind like 2 weeks ago. And the reason this mastermind was super valuable was because it was a bunch of people who were doing what we were doing. There was like a threshold for number of deals you had done, number of transactions you had done this year kind of thing. And so there were a lot of people who, it's hard to find a group of like 30 people who think the same way that we think. Obviously, that's why the 4 of us sit in this room every Friday. But one of the questions that like consistently comes up is, what is your goal for cash flow, and what is your goal for like net worth or number of units owned? And like a month ago, I probably realized that I had to separate those two things because I don't have a goal.
I don't either.
And the reason that I don't have a goal is because I do it because I enjoy it, and I have a goal within the business. Trevor and I have a goal. Stack has a goal. Stack has a goal of units we want to hit.
Mike
like,
taught you this. I remember this episode.
Oh, did you really? Wow. Maybe that's what it was.
The coaching is working, Mike.
Yes.
Is that what you said?
Subconsciously.
I pulled a Trevor. Trevor does this to me all the time. Dadgummit. I never do that. Well, anyways, it did work.
You had
Yeah.
to you had to hear it a second time from somebody else, and then Mike's lesson
And then I
sunk in.
could say it myself.
So you have a goal for your business.
Yeah, we have a goal for the business, but the point being is that like for the business, it's never going to be enough. That's the nature of a business. If you have a business, your goal is to grow until the point at which you can't grow doing the thing that you're doing anymore, which takes a really, really, really long time. I think we would have to own all the real estate in the world. But then you just have to stay there. Then you have to sit on your pedestal, which is first place. And for like personally, I don't really care. Like I would love for that to happen for the business, but I have to separate those two things. Because if the business is consuming me and I can't be happy until I hit that business goal, then this is what we talked about. then I'm never going to be happy. And so I have to say, I enjoy the pursuit of that goal. Like personally, I enjoy it, and I do. Like it's fun.
Yeah.
I enjoy that pursuit,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't let my personal like satisfaction be based on how much money the business is making, or like how many units I own, or what my net worth is.
I love it. It's the identity conversation. So your
Yeah.
goals are process oriented. That's why they're business goals, but your
Yeah.
identity is not getting tied up in.
No,
Yeah.
I just
Love it.
enjoy what I'm doing.
That's why we set our goals so high. We say we want to build $1 billion portfolio or $1 billion business. We just say billion because it's just like the biggest number we can spit out.
You
It
say
sounds
a
like
billion.
it's like
Can't even process
it's
it.
like it's so big
Yeah.
that like we might be able to do it, we might not be able to do it, but we got to aim for something really
I wouldn't
high.
be enjoying it unless I was shooting for that.
Yeah, and if we get there, we get there. If we don't, we don't. That's my point. As long as we have fun along the way, honestly. Like when we were at the meetup last night, and I'll just say shout out to Mike for doing Investor Lab in Portland. I think it's the biggest or
Next
best,
Thursday. Yeah.
biggest or best Portland real estate investor meetup. Trevor puts on the SRE here in Salem, which I believe is the biggest real estate meetup in Salem.
Has
So
to
we
be.
got the meetup guys here in the room. But I got to tell you, and I've said this before, like it is my favorite day of every month. Like just being in the room, the energy, talking to people, like I just get so pumped. Like I don't know if I do more deals because of that or whatever, but going to those rooms, it refills my tank, like it reminds me why I'm doing what I'm doing. And part of it is because I want to own more buildings, and part of it is because I want to help other people own more buildings. And the collaborative energy that comes from those meetups is just it's just infectious. I mean, it's I don't know. And Dane did a great job speaking the other night too, but it was a lot of fun.
Well, it's because now your consciousness surrounded by other people, you're just all vibrating at a higher level. And I even at a point where it's no fair if I meet someone at one of those meetups because I will not remember you. And the reason being is there's so much going on, and I'm at such an elevated level that I can't come back down like Avery. So I met her at the meeting, saw her at the coffee shop, didn't recognize her. Because when I met her, you almost go into a character because there is so much going on, because it is vibrating so high. And so
I don't know why I was bringing that up, other than just like, we all have goals. We all want to own stuff, but I think that, having fun along the way.
You have to have fun.
That's what I was talking about. Is like, I left that night. I didn't even want to go to bed that night. I was so pumped up. And, I thought to myself that night when I went home, I was like, we may or may not build $1 billion business, but like I am having so much fun right now.
Yeah.
Like as long as I can keep doing this,
Yeah.
I would love to have that target, and sure, if we hit it, but when we hit the $1 billion mark, it's not going to feel as good as that night when I left the real estate meetup. That the feeling of being part of it and doing it and helping other people do it is just, I don't know. It's so much fun.
It's like it's living your purpose for that period of time. Yeah.
Paul's good about that. Paul's always talking about his.
He called me this morning, 7 a.m. He goes, I got to tell you something. You guys are always reading all these articles, getting all hung up on economics and talking about where the market's going. He goes, I got to tell you, it's all bullshit. He goes, I don't look at any of that. I don't pay attention to any of that.
It's the foundation of life.
Wealthiest guy. Wealthiest guy.
I said, Paul, we know a lot of smart people, but you are definitely the smartest.
I love how Paul and I can be kindred spirits on one side of the spectrum and completely opposite on the other.
Yeah, it's just the system is rigged. Put your name on buildings and hang on as long.
That's just the simple, easy way to look at it. If you think about it, it's the evolved conversation of what we're having. Paul's just on the furthest end of the spectrum.
Yeah. Well, and we operate businesses in the brokerage and management space. Interest rates do matter to us, and they matter to him too.
He just manages his portfolio. So it doesn't matter.
If we were just doing one thing and managing our own personal portfolio, we wouldn't care about certain things. But yeah, it's funny. He just had to give me a reminder. All the things we geek out about and we talk about, we always get to the end and Trevor goes, okay, how can we use this information? And we all just say, it doesn't matter. Go buy real estate.
Trevor, do you feel like we got to talk through all your problems?
Yeah, I didn't need to talk through our problems. Our point was to share what we've learned.
I didn't mean in order to solve them. I'm just
but we kind of cut you off. You got into something big about it, and we cut you off. So you just took your name off title and gave them all control and accepted a promissory note for that?
It sounded like the downside was so high that I was just screwed. I'm on this debt. They have no assets. I'm going to lose this debt. And the name, I put all my money in. I don't have money. I can't cover it. So the solution was, hey, we'll take you off the debt.
How'd they take you off the debt?
Right.
Loan adjustment. Lender allowed it.
No way.
Lender allowed it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
you got lucky.
Wow.
And then I was the best solution would have been they go off and I just solve the problem. As what I've learned is I should have done because it's all my money in the deal and there's still equity left and it could have been solved. But it was sold to me like this thing is done. It's screwed. Like we're doing you a favor. Like I was like, oh, thanks guys. Like take all my money. And then they were like, we'll give you a promissory note for X amount of dollars. So we square it up. And then once I did the part where I went off, the promissory note part didn't happen.
It's amazing how that
eventually happened for a little bit.
It was a lot of effort.
But the truck money never have those.
So I think you were good to get off of that.
I was happy to. That was my goal at that point.
It allowed you to focus to make money.
I was okay with that. Yes, it let me stop thinking about it. But had I gone back, that's not what I should have done. But whatever, it was fine.
You got to know when to cut ties.
Well, and at the time, like you can say that now, but who you are now is not who you were then. So that may not have actually been the best thing.
No, it's fine. It worked out. I
I love you so nonchalant.
Are you ever going to get any of your money back?
I don't think so. No. Have you gotten any of your money back from your partner?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so because
Can you write that off as a tax loss at some point?
Yeah, but then if the weird part is they're like, hey, I'm going to pay you back. So then you're like, oh, are you? I can't write it off until it's lost. And then it's like, hey, I'm going to pay you back in a month for this truck. And it's like, oh, no, I got you 6 months. Then, no, I got you 2 years. And it's like, I got you in June.
Because they have to report that as income
now
on their, like if you forget debt, it's income on their
that's
record,
income.
Right? So now you not.
But are they going to report that as
income?
Like,
if you were on title, the closing state would be the end and you lose money or make money. If you're not on title and you have a prom note, now they're not making payments, so you're going to have to foreclose on the prom note or whatever, or however that works.
I don't know.
But it's an uncollateralized note. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just uncollectible. You'd have to deem it uncollectible, charge it off, and just say I lost $150,000 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Can we split that loss?
You give me half of it.
Taxes,
I'll take some of it too.
Yeah.
I'll buy it from you.
So like to touch base on like, that was a bunch of problems, but lessons learned from it, right?
Can you sell those like tax credits?
I don't know.
Sorry.
Let Trevor go.
Track all your expenses. Don't stop tracking your expenses. Know your numbers on your portfolio and your personal expenses. If you're not tracking your personal expenses loosely, start doing that at least.
How often are you projecting like cash flow and like looking at your money?
2 hours every single month, I look at my personal financials and all our P&Ls and I enter them all into the spreadsheet I have that projects out what we're doing so I can see the trends, what's comparing month over month.
And you have a dashboard for that?
Yeah.
I saw a really good video of Cody Sanchez. She was talking about David Osborne.
Mm-hmm.
And she went on early on her, like as she started growing, went on a walk with David Osborne. He's worth like $100 million at the time. And I've had a one-on-one with David as well. And the way that he talks about how he watches his money every single day, he's looking at his dashboard and he has everything together where it's every
Tied
penny.
in,
Yeah. And like the analogy she used was the mistress, but it's like, if you watch it every day, it will grow. If you ignore it every day, it will shrink. And so that's kind of but the hard part is now, how do you relax around it if you're looking at it every day? So you have to be in a Zen moment to just understand, again, it's just, this is where it's at. And he's looking at it every day to know where it's going.
Yeah.
Is it going to come back to us, or is it going to go away and stay away?
So I did that. Then I mapped out my plan once I knew what scenario I was in, because I knew what the nut was monthly that I was losing, how much I had to pay back, so I could start doing that. Next part was don't ego invest. I didn't need to be investing just for my ego. I learned that's what I was doing at that time.
To try to get to 100 doors.
Yeah.
Why? Because you want to tell people you had 100 doors?
Yeah.
Well, is there also a lack of knowledge and just believing that, hey, I got to 100 doors, now I have this cash flow and this wealth that comes along with it, and not actually being able to...
I've talked about this. I went goal, financial freedom, hit that. Next goal, become a millionaire, did that. And then the next goal I had in mind was 100 doors.
Okay.
And then that was just the goal.
There's no financials around it.
There's another problem with goal setting. Creates ego.
Yeah. And then I don't know, and just 100 sounded cool. That was the biggest number I could think of at the time. I should have said I want 100 units that perform in XYZ way.
Yes.
Not just 100 units.
Smart goals.
Yeah.
Smart goals, yes.
Yeah.
And then partnerships. So partners are the key to every deal. That deal I was doing and the other deals we did within that partnership, all were fine deals, but the partners are what made or break the deal.
They probably are more leveraged than debt. Like if you think about leverage gain and leverage return and leverage
people,
risk.
yeah. People are another way to leverage. You have like content, capital.
Didn't I put that in
people.
my podcast? In my...
But they're an exponential leverage. Like they're a bigger lever than debt.
Can be, yeah.
Yeah.
They're a really negative lever.
They're another one. Bigger, smaller, who knows?
So
depends on the person.
To wrap it up too, if you guys run into the same problem, ask people for help.
Yeah.
That have been through the problem, and they will tell you how to solve it. Call Dane, Gabe, or I, and we can literally tell you probably don't have as big of a problem. Maybe you do.
The first thing we're going to do is laugh at you, though.
The first thing you're going to do is laugh so you don't feel so bad with you.
You're going to like it.
Yeah.
That's how you get ease, is the laugh.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and then we can literally help you solve that problem. You could have, had I asked you for help, well, you just kind of laughed. Maybe you didn't. I don't know. I didn't trust Dane at that time. But my buddy Jesse, shout out Jesse.
Shout out Dane, then shout out Jesse.
Shout out Jesse.
Yeah.
Oh, Trevor didn't want to listen to Dane.
I'm shouting out Jesse because now Trevor has the confidence in me because I told him a year before Jesse did.
Had I asked for help sooner rather than not thinking about it for a while, I could have solved it much sooner.
You weren't broke. You were just out of cash. You had equity.
Yeah, I was worth over $1 million still, but I just couldn't tap any of it, and I was the richest and the poorest I had ever been at the same time.
Can we like just beat that point down though? If you ask somebody for help who has been through that specific situation and you know that they actually spent more than like 5 seconds thinking about it, take their advice. Just take it. When Gabe tells me something, when you tell me something about, we dropped a deal that I had spent 20 hours underwriting, gone through all these different phases with architects and engineers, and like gotten somebody to pitch a fee, loved the project, met with the sellers a number of times, and then we sat down with Gabe for like an hour, and I couldn't give a rebuttal to Gabe's questions. He said, "Here's why I don't like this deal. Does it still work based on these things?" And we said no, and we left and we dropped the deal. It took 1 hour because Gabe had already done that deal. Gabe knew that deal already. Gabe knew it. He hadn't done this exact deal, obviously, but he knew it, and he said, "Don't do it." And we said, "Okay, we're gonna lose money." Yep.
Yes.
I didn't think we were gonna, but now I see what you're saying.
Yes. So
listen to the advice, though.
Ask for help. People want to help you. There's lots of people who could have helped me. I could have helped myself had I removed myself from the situation, thought about it a little bit, but it's hard to do while you're in it. So ask for help.
Why don't people ask for help?
You don't want to seem like you're failing, probably.
It's a form of ego.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to point on what Gabe said. So like when he gets a lot of things going and his brain starts thinking, he has to write it down. And you kept mentioning, I'm thinking about it. Like when you're in an area like this, you have to get it out of your brain. If it stays in your brain, it stays huge. It stays unknown. And then our our ego, our DNA, then creates it into everything that you don't want to create it into. And so, like, I love the idea of the thinking chair when you're trying to be a visionary and you just want to think and you just need to get ideas through your head. But when you're in a situation, you got to get it out of your head.
Yes.
You have to articulate it.
Yeah.
Articulate it. Make it real. Don't make it the thing that's trapped in your head. Once it's articulated, it's real. You say, this is what I'm losing every month. These are the dollars that I have in another property. If I sell this property, I fix this problem.
Yeah.
Trevor does this really good going into a deal by always doing a spread on something. You want to put it out on paper to see what the numbers actually look like. I just want to feel like it's going to be good, or feel like it's going to be bad. So I do and I don't know if that's good or bad. I mean, it's just one way to look at it, but you're getting it out on paper, and the problem with getting it out on paper is you may be wrong about your numbers.
Well, the feel about it is just, that's the level of experience of understanding, well, the execution, the life of the performa, I feel good about that. So I don't care about your performa because I feel good that we can execute and bring the idea to life.
I also
go ahead.
That's just a valuable piece to every partnership. That's why you have probably 5 partnerships where you're the feel guy, and everybody knows that you're the feel guy, and you have the insights that we don't have because 1 is experience, but 2 is that's just your nature. You understand things conceptually at a really high level, and Trevor works with numbers, and the partners you have out of LA work with numbers, and Logan works with numbers because that's their role.
So
and that's
you
why
align yourself with those
you're
partners.
attracted to those partners, though, is because you know that having both sides just makes you more powerful.
You remember when I asked you guys, I don't know when this was, I think I called you a year or 2 ago, and I said, do you know anybody who's a futurist? Do you remember when I called you?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
I think that might be the role I play.
I think that was you.
Like, when
Yeah.
you show me a deal, I'm literally putting myself in that deal 10 years or 20 years from now, and I'm thinking about being 60 or 70 years old and what that neighborhood's going to look like and what that building's going to look like and what those tenants are going to look like, and I'm thinking about what it's going to be like to own that deal down the road. And if I don't like that deal in 10 or 20 years, I don't like it today.
And that's where I think the beauty of it is the level of experience changes you from a finite thinker to an infinite thinker. And you just bring that infinite thinking process to the table. So you bring a timeline of thought that calms the performa, right? Like, it doesn't matter because you're just bringing this infinite mindset of, I feel good because I know this is good 10 years from now. So it doesn't matter where it's at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as long as now it's structured the right way. And then we use the performa to structure it the right way to make sure it's good in those early years.
And there will be times during that 10 or 20 years where numbers are going to look really good, and there's other times where it doesn't look really good. I mean, that's just like any business, right? The thing, it ebbs and it flows.
Last learning lesson.
Go.
Everything is fixable. So, like, all those problems that you guys are facing too, you can solve them. They're all fixable.
Don't give up.
Yes. The only time you fail is if you quit trying to solve the problem.
Correct.
Like, all that stuff is fixable in somehow, some way.
And once you solve it, you're a different person.
Yeah, now
you level up. You're
now
different.
I can solve a $600,000 problem.
Yeah.
That's that Chinese parable about the dad who bought his son a horse. Isn't that podcast?
Broke his leg.
Yeah. Then he broke his leg. It's
Then he
all
didn't
just a
have to go to war.
situation.
Yeah.
It's just a situation. On the back end of it, if you decide to see it through, that's when you know maybe whether or not that thing was good or bad, but you won't know until the day that you die. And then it doesn't matter because you're dead. That was the whole line, which is so true.
So the horse broke his leg, or the kid broke his leg?
Kid broke his leg on the
parable on being stoked.
Dad bought
We
his
got to
son a
close
horse.
out.
I'm
I want
still
to talk deals. and
I'm still
Mike has
lost
to
about
leave.
Mike's parable of the mistress who grows when
It
you
wasn't
look at her.
mine.
That was I got so lost.
You're
I
not
didn't
supposed to
wanna-
look at the mistress.
I didn't
No,
wanna dive into
I think
it.
I can.
I was-
it's-
He
if
was
you're-
saying if you don't pay attention to your wife, she's going to leave you, right?
No, but a
Yes,
mistress-
exactly.
Oh.
Yes,
mistress
if you're
is-
Look at your
watching
wife.
it, and you're nurturing it, she's gonna.
The relationship grows.
Yep.
Yeah.
But a
So-
mistress isn't.
Yeah,
a
mistress.
I don't know. Maybe
There's
she
a
said wife.
missus and
I
a
think-
mistress.
Yeah, he meant the
Those are
missus,
two
Missus.
not the
different.
mistress.
That's where I got confused.
Yeah. Well, we know that I'm very good at confusing words.
Well,
I thought you meant if you look at your mistress too long, she'll grow. That's what I thought. I was like, what parable
Yeah,
is this?
I'm pretty sure it was Mrs. and I said mistress.
Oh,
I don't know.
But she won't grow. The relationship will grow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
Gabe's
good.
good with
That's better.
analogies.
So I'm glad we cleared that.
I'm glad. I'm too. Now I'm getting confused.
Maybe I
between
should just stop
the
trying
horse
to
with a broken
regurgitate.
leg and the growing mistress, but it's all good.
Stop trying to regurgitate.
We're not the
stories.
podcast for Chinese proverbs,
No.
okay? We're here to do deals.
All right, guys.
Are we going to deals?
All right, we'll wrap it up.
If you're having problems, email Dane or Trevor
Yeah. Dane at vestasolutions.net
or Trevor at the same thing. And then share this podcast. We're asking you to do one thing. Share this podcast
Yeah.
with a friend if you like it, any episode,
Please
so we
do.
keep making it.
Yeah, give it a like and share it to somebody else who you think will enjoy it. But yeah, we'll see you guys next time.